Have you ever wanted a system so that when you're posting, you can look back at your content and figure out how you can actually improve in different areas of storytelling? Welcome to Network Notes. That is what we do here. I am taking my first 10 recordings that I'm posting on YouTube and I do notes like I do as a producer in order to help me grow. And hopefully, it also allows you to learn something about learning how to audit your own content. So, this episode, we are doing my second post that I did. So, the first thing we're going to do is look at the overall note from the post. Okay, so first of all, my overall notes for episode two. Let's see, the TRT was 8:51. So the total running time was 8:51. And I believe that the first episode came in at around 19 minutes. And one of my goals was to actually bring the TRT down. I wanted all of the posts, especially for the first 10, to be under 10 minutes or around 10 minutes for a couple reasons. Is one, to prevent me from rambling. It's really easy to give lots of examples and to go on a lot of tangents. And I just wanted to make sure um, that I was being clean and concise with what I was sharing. So I didn't want a whole lot of examples. I wanted one example to really illustrate the point. The other element was I didn't want to be editing 20-minute videos and then it just takes too long. And there's too many decisions that you have to make when it's over 20 minutes long. So I really wanted to keep the post down to 10. So those are two things that I'm really happy about that have moved in the right direction. From last week's note, I did adjust the framing, but I still don't like the framing. Okay, I think I need to check and see if the seat raises so that more of my body is showing. I feel like I'm being cut off. At first, I thought it was a headroom problem, but I realized after looking at it that it's actually just a whole mid-frame problem. So today you'll notice even I'm up higher just because I was cut off. Okay, I used only one reality television example, the Gordon Ramsay one. I think it makes it much easier to follow along. So one of my previous notes was that I had too many tangents and too many reality television examples. So I did consciously decide to make only one example. And so I used the Gordon Ramsay example. And I do believe that it does make it easier to follow along. Love this running time a lot more for now. It's so much easier to get the cut edited and to convey one message. I agree with that. Like cutting down, it was only an 8-minute, 9-minute cut. So it was so much easier. It was just establishing certain points and then just editing, taking things out. And I didn't have to make a lot of decisions about what to keep and what to get rid of. Everything that I said I wanted to keep in, and then I just got rid of bad takes or things like that. Okay, the editing on this one is a disaster. I will not be finishing any cuts in Canva again. I'll just do my best in iMovie or pull the trigger onto script. Trying to put graphics in with Canva made my cut very choppy for some reason, and the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Okay, so you're gonna see that the editing, ugh, it's not Canva's fault. I just don't feel like learning all the details of Canva, but just the very cutting frames, just it got really choppy. And the reason I had moved it to Canva was because I wanted to use the graphics. And what I'm realizing is that it would definitely just be easier to do it into script because what I did was I recorded the episode, I cut it down in iMovie, then I took it over to Canva to finish it, and it's too many steps to get a rhythm going. It needs to be a little bit more smooth. And so what I decided is I'm just going to probably from now on do all my footage into script so that I can just put the graphics in, edit down using the text, and be done with it. Like I really need to get a rhythm, and taking footage from one place to another just doesn't work. And unfortunately, iMovie doesn't have a lot as far as like graphics. Not that I need a whole lot of graphics, but even just putting text on screen, a lot of it feels a little bit dated. Not to say my Canva thing doesn't look dated either. Okay, so now we're going to look at some of the edits that I specifically noted. So the key thing here is to note that when you're looking at your own post, do an overall. How do you feel about this cut right now? How do you feel about this post? What do you like about it and what don't you like about it? So those are things I would ask myself when I first look at a post. What do I like and what don't I like? And you're not judging what you don't like so that you can be hard on yourself. You're judging it so that you can make improvements moving forward. So all of the things that I don't like the framing or the editing, I even posted it and I didn't like it, but I'm never going to get momentum if I keep going back and re-editing things. And so it's just a momentum game at this point for me. And the content is still good. It's just I didn't like the way that it was finished. So I take the things that I like and the things that I don't like and I implement them so that I can improve going forward. Okay, so let's look at 29, the hook. All right. Are you a business owner who all of a sudden feels like they've become some sort of influencer, that you're like chasing trends, you're chasing the algorithm, you're like chasing hooks or trending audio or trying to make these perfect posts, and you feel like A, you're not spending any time on your business, and B, you're not even sure if these posts are working. Are you actually marketing your business or are you just becoming very popular? In this post, you're going to learn the difference between influencer and entertainment posts and posts that are made specifically to market your business. Okay? Because ultimately, you're online to solve a problem for an ideal client. If you don't figure out and learn the difference between influencer and entertainment posts and posts that are made specifically to market your business, you're going to feel like you are at the mercy of the algorithm instead of intentionally marketing your business. Okay, so let's look at the first note, which was for our hook. Okay, so the hook. I look forward to seeing more. I look forward to feeling more conversational in my hook. Listening to the audio, it just sounds like I'm reading, even though I'm not. This is something that's just going to take time, and one day I'm going to show up and be more of an expression of who I am and not the professional version. So I don't mind the actual content of the hooks right now. I do think they'll probably jazz up as I get more energy. One thing as I was doing this, I decided that I'm going to do in the future is I'm going to do like kind of the rehearsed part, not rehearsed, but the professional version, like just how I'm doing it right now, like the I'm just going to say the Zoom meeting version. And then what I'm going to do is do another take of a section and do it in my conversational version and just see if I can start livening up a little bit and having more energy in the beginning, because I do feel like I come across in my business, this is like my business energy. And I really want to come across more like I do if you're sitting in the chair in front of me and I'm interviewing you and we're talking about whatever's happening that day on set. So I do want to feel that energy more. I want to be in producer more than I'm in a meeting mode. Let's see. The graphics, I spent too much time taking the edited version from iMovie and putting it in Canva, and I don't even love the graphics. They look cheesy and I don't want to spend more time on them. So I might just use title cards in iMovie for graphics until I hire someone to do this. They also made my editing more choppy, pilot error, but the juice isn't worth the squeeze. You could see that the editing is a disaster, but I do want to use titles to help add emphasis, because I do think it's important to have emphasis to help your audience to follow along and to make sure they're getting the key points. So just, I don't think it's Canva's fault. It's just really, I don't want to spend that much time really learning how to really fine tune editing in Canva. I would rather just take it into one one software program and just get it all done. I don't want to chop it up in iMovie, get it really done pretty well, then move it to Canva and then chop it up again. So that was really discouraging for me. Well, it wasn't discouraging, it was just a note for the future. So 30, what is this, 30 seconds in, there's way more choppy edits in this cut. A lot of it has to do with putting it in Canva. Again, I don't think has anything to do with Canva in itself. I really think this is just my bandwidth, I want to do it in one step. And I really don't want to learn how to do Canva fine tuning when I know how to do Descript. So that's really more what it's about at this point. Okay, lower third, instead of the story producer, I'm going to change it to reality television producer. That way they know my qualifications. Okay, hold on, I'm going to pull it up. Okay, I just wanted to add in case you didn't know what a lower third was. So this is what we call a lower third, and it's just an identifier. And so right now I have it saying the story producer because that's the name of the channel. But what I think I'm going to do instead is just put reality television producer so that I can have my credibility show up on there without me every time having to say, hi, and I'm qualified because it's just, oh, she's a reality television producer. So it just, using all of these elements, like all your visual, all your audio, they all can tell a story for you. So, if you're like, I don't want to say every time that I'm a journalist qualified to do this or a yoga instructor for 25 years, like if you don't want to say all that all the time, then just adding a lower third at the bottom, I think will also help you because then you can say yoga instructor, veteran yoga instructor or Pilates instructor, but some type of identifier so you don't have to stop midstream to explain who you are. Next note, with over 15 years, I'm going to start saying with 20 years of experience because I wasn't saying it because it made me feel old. And then I saw men on YouTube talk about 20 years of experience. And I'm like, why am I selling myself short? I have 20 years of experience, own it. It's so true. Like, I noticed I was looking at some other YouTube videos, and these men were saying, I have over 20 years of experience. And I was like, well, I have over 20 years of experience. So why am I saying 15 so that I appear younger? And I know a lot of it comes from when I'm actually in the field or working on a show, especially as I've gotten older. I didn't realize I was older until I started to notice everyone was a lot younger than me. And so I started downplaying my experience because I didn't want people thinking, why is this old woman still working on these shows? Like, what is she doing here? This is a young person's game. So I really have my own insecurity about my being as experienced as being as old as I am in my industry. And it's actually a badge of honor. So I'm just going to start owning it and saying with over 20 years of experience. Just with over 20 years of experience because I have it and I can back up every claim and I feel good about saying it. So that's what I'm just going to start doing. Okay, 133. I love the graphic to emphasize points. I also love the cropping of the shot. Hold the graphic on screen longer for emphasis. I just need to see if I can do it in iMovie. So hold on 1 second. Let's see what this is. One of the things I can tell you is I've worked on every type of show. I've worked on, well, I haven't worked on a crime show, but I've worked on cooking shows. I've worked on fashion shows. I've worked on dating shows. I've worked on docu-series. I've worked on adventure shows. And every single show, the audience has different expectations for each type of show. Okay, so the note was, I love the graphic to emphasize points. I also love the cropping of the shot. Hold the graphic on screen longer for emphasis. I just need to see if I can do it in iMovie. Okay, so I like that the shot was cropped. So when we got to the point, we actually cropped in on my face and then we had the graphic. But the issue was I didn't hold on the graphic for long enough. It came up like that. And you really want to hold those because they give it punctuation. And also, if, like, for instance, for me, whenever I'm watching someone and someone makes a good point, I want to take a note. And so when it's not up long enough, then they have to rewind to see it. So you want to hold it up long enough that they can pause it, write it down, and keep moving, and they don't have to like scroll backward at all. But I did like having the emphasis and cropping in on my face and having the graphic. I really did like that. So I'm going to have to see if I can find a template for when I do that often. So then 211, hold on the graphic longer for emphasis. So same thing. And then 236, this would be better as a graphic on a black title card with the exact message. Business content is about your ideal client and about how you help them solve their problem. It's not about you. Then come back up to me on camera. Okay, let me see what that's about. So, the biggest difference I've noticed between influencer and entertainment content and business owner content is that influencer and entertainment content is about themselves. So, imagine it's like, get ready with me while I tell you about this horrible date I had last night. Here's a grocery haul from a fancy grocery store in my neighborhood. Come with me as I go try out this new trendy restaurant downtown. These are all posts about themselves. And business content is about your ideal client and about how you help them solve their problem. It is not about you. So you saw how it was broken up. Like the first idea was on one card, and then the second idea was broken up into two. And instead, that would have been good just to keep the sentence flowing. And then I could have just even had like a title card that just had the message and then my voice underneath and then come up at the end. So that would have had, I think, a stronger message than parsing out the different parts of the message. The point of the message is to get your point across. So breaking it up like that, I don't think it makes it easier for the audience to follow. But if I put it on one title card and then had the message, it would really hone in the point more. I don't think the way that I did it gives enough of an emphasis. Okay, so then we have 534. It's a bad edit. I think I'm going to switch out all of the graphics for black title cards with the information and then come back to me after. I think it'll look cleaner. So I'll play with this a little bit more, but really the point of the visual, I mean, just think of school, like the points that we want to make, we usually put on a chalkboard and we make it a point so that you write it down. And so the point is, I want to make it noteworthy. I want it to be something that they're going to come back to later for reference. And so I think maybe putting it on a black title card with white text might be better, or I'm going to play around with it, but I don't like the way that it came across on this. And then, oh, I do like this though, putting the questions next to me on screen. Okay, let's see what that's all about. Before you start your video or create your post, you're going to ask yourself these three questions. This post is for blank. Their problem is blank. I'm going to help them by blank. Okay, so I did like that. I did like the idea of the crop and then having the questions. I did like the questions coming up on screen. I think I would again hold them longer just so that people have time to write them down. They can pause, write it down, or wait till all three of them take a screenshot or write them down, but they don't have to rewind because it was on screen so fast. So I do want to really come up with a rhythm with the graphics. And then last one, rough edits back here. So if you watch that video at all, or even just walking through it with me, you could see that there's a lot of rough edits. The interesting thing is when they were in iMovie, I cut it down and I cleaned it up. The edits weren't that bad, but once I tried to add graphics in Canva, I don't know if you've ever done it, but you have to cut it up to match where you want it to lay down. And so as I was cutting it up, I didn't realize that it was really slicing frames, and that was what's making it choppy. So, and I really don't want to spend the time to really invest in learning how to do that detail there when I already know how to do it in Descript. I was just trying to see how much I could do without really spending any more money. Honestly, I could just leave it in iMovie, take a day, a half a day, a couple hours, and really learn how to do it in iMovie and how to like really use the graphics effectively in iMovie. But what I do like about Descript is a lot of talking head videos you can edit by the transcript, and you don't have to you can edit by the transcript more, and it just makes it go by so much quicker. So I do think that's one thing I've learned doing this next round of videos. Okay, so the things that I think I'm going to focus on in my next video is absolutely the framing, but you can see here, I've raised myself so you can see more of me so I'm not cut off at the top. So that also just helps with the framing and I don't feel like I'm like looking over a counter because I am kind of short. So I did adjust the framing again. I'm going to continue using one reality television example. I think that's really effective, and it also makes the videos a lot shorter. And I think it does illustrate the point that I'm trying to make. And I am going to clean up the editing, the graphics, and making sure that just the edits in general is a lot cleaner. I do think that it was way more choppy than the first version, but I do think that's because I took something that I cleaned up, put it in a software I'm not that familiar with, and trying to get it done and not spend a whole lot of time with it. I always say, I say this a lot too on shows I'm working on. There comes a point when it's like utensils up, time's up and you've got to submit it to the network. And that's kind of how I felt here is time's up. I've spent enough time on this episode and I'm moving on. And so it did come back choppy, but lessons were learned. So thank you so much for following along as I audited my second episode. And I do think every time doing this, I am learning a lot. And I do think that as I continue to post, you are going to be able to see the evolution of quality and not even getting a lot of new equipment or a lot of new software. I do think just doing some basic elements is really going to help me feel happier with the output. But it's also fun to like just learn as I go, and hopefully doing this helps you as well with your own posts. And if you have any questions on how to do it with your own posts, please feel free to leave a question in the comments. I'm more than happy to answer it. Until next time.